Hello, Martin.
Hello.
Right. Yeah, well, let's start with telling me how the tour is going for you at the moment.
It's going very well. Most of the concerts have been sold out and there's been a very good audience reaction, especially some places. Glasgow is very good, for instance. It's been about the best one, I think.
What sort of reaction is there from the crowds towards, let's say, the new lineup in the band and the new material on the albums and stuff like that?
It's been very good. We haven't had one hostile crowd. You know, obviously there's like one or two people, you know, some nights who just come along to heckle you. You know, they go down the pub and they have a bit too much to drink and they just come along, you know, and shout things out. But on the whole, though, you know, most of the people enjoy it. Especially, you know, Alan, the new member, he gets more people shouting out for him than we do.
Yeah, you've got a new album out, and which is called A Broken Frame, right?
Yeah.
Yes. What does it specify, broken frame? What do you mean exactly by broken frame? Things being now more serious.
It was just to represent sort of breaking away from you know, our sort of limitations before. You know, we felt sort of enclosed, and that's sort of just breaking out of what we were doing before.
Do you think now, finally, Depeche Mode, with, let's say, your new material and this current tour, you have shaken off the myth that was attached to the previous member, Vince Clarke, with the band, you know, all that Vince leaving, Vince has left, you know, and do you think people has now forgotten most of that?
I think a lot of people have, but I think that, you know, that we're not going to get away from that, you know, for a long time yet. People had forgotten it at one time, you know, when just after Vince had left and we had See You was successful, and you know, and Vince hadn't released a single. People didn't, sort of remember it then. But now Yazoo is successful. You know, people obviously are going to remember it, and they, you know, keep asking us about it in interviews. You know, especially foreign interviews. I think we get it more because I think Yazoo have done well in most countries abroad. You know, a lot better than us even. You know, so obviously people are going to ask us about that. I think in a lot of places we're the Heaven 17, you know, of that country. Same sort of situation, yeah.
Yes, because at one time they found themselves very much as being the underdogs, but I think in this case you have proved that you can continue even though, let's say, Vince was the main songwriter, because now you are the main songwriter and you are doing everything and you are capable of writing songs at least, you know. Do you find it difficult to write songs? I mean, or have you always written songs on your own?
Yeah, I've always written songs, but not prolifically. You know, I used to write one or two a year, perhaps. You know, and never seriously either. They were just, you know, I used to be I've been in a band since I was about 13 or so, and but it was never serious. You know, it was just to play to a few friends or at youth clubs and things like that. So I've always written songs, but just not seriously before. Now I've got to write more seriously.
The responsibility of the material lies in your hands, really, as such at the moment. Do you get any help from the others at all?
Not in actually writing the songs, like the words and the chords and things like that. But I only write the basic structure of the songs before we go to the studio, and then we sort of work on it as a team in the studio. You know, we'll try different things out and to see what works, and we'll decide together what works best.
How would you say a song, how much does it alter from the basic construction when you compose it to it actually getting down on record?
Well, you know, it differs from song to song, you know, but most of the time though the result is a lot different from how I expected it to be.
The arrangements that there are on the songs, who's responsible for that? Are you all responsible, or is it something that, say, where Daniel is involved, for instance?
Well, Daniel is involved, but you know, we're all responsible. You know, Daniel might suggest something, or we might suggest something, you know, and we'll just try it to see if it works or not. And if it works, we keep it.
Depeche Mode has been one of the most sort of like, one of the pioneer bands as such to come up with this so-called electro-pop band as it's been rightly described. How do you feel about it now that there are other bands, not necessarily playing the same format, but using very much the same skeleton as you have rightly used on your songs?
I don't mind that. I think that as long as they've got good ideas and write good songs, I think that that it's all right. I think the song's the most important thing.
What do you call for when a song is written? I mean, obviously, now you've been playing since you're 13 years old, you said. Are you a bit of a perfectionist yourself?
No. I think I'm far from a perfectionist because I'm very lazy. A lot of the time I have to be pushed by the others and pushed by Daniel to do things. If we record a part, for instance, it's not quite perfect, almost perfect, but not quite, I'll tend to say, oh, that's all right, we'll get away with that, no one will notice. And the others, or Daniel might say, no, we better do it again, or something like that.
Does most of the actual shaping up of the record take place in the studio before, or is it two rehearsals beforehand, let's say?
No, it's actually in the studio. We don't, well, up until now, we haven't rehearsed before we've gone into the studio.
Mm-hmm. The use of live tapes that you've got, of the tapes that you use in a live show, how much does that leave you? Obviously, there's one disadvantage to that you can't improvise. Do you ever find that sort of like a choking experience to you?
No, we've always used tapes, either tapes or a drum machine. So we haven't really experienced anything else. But we never really felt choked or restricted because we're not the sort of band who want to play 5-minute solos and things like that. I don't think we could get away with that sort of thing in our sort of music. So I think it fits our sort of music perfectly.
One day I must probably think that it's going to have to happen, that you have to add a different sound, a different dimension to your music. I mean, you can keep going on what you're doing, but I don't think it seems right in many ways. You obviously yourselves are going to progress into something different. Can you see a shape, something that's what's going to happen?
Not at the moment, no. We're happy with what we're doing at the moment, but I think that we will probably try out other instruments. Perhaps an acoustic guitar or something like that. With our lineup, just to see how it works.
How much do you apply that image, the young teenage image, the pop image, really? Do you like that?
I don't know. I don't think it's a question of liking it. I think you have to just accept it. We've really been thrust into this position, because our singles were successful, and because our albums have been fairly successful, and we just have to accept it really, that people are shouting out for us and things like that. I think ideally that wouldn't happen because people wouldn't treat you as stars, but we just have to accept it. It does get a bit much sometimes, and when you leave the concerts and there's 50 or 100 people waiting outside and they'll try to grab pieces of you, get handfuls of your hair and things like that.
What did you experience? I mean, like the first time that happened to you, what do you think about it? Do you think, oh, I want to go home? Or what do you think?
I don't know. I think the first time it's a novelty.
You're the new guy.
Yeah, I'm Alan.
Yeah. How is it happening? Is it good? Is it going good for you?
Yeah, it's so far, up until this album, I've only been actually employed by the band. I'm not on any of the records. I haven't played on the album or those earlier singles this year. But now I've joined the band full time as a permanent member.
So you're doing session work, but now you're full time, right?
Yeah, I don't like to call it session work. It wasn't really session work. I mean, I was in the band as such, but not recording. That's all right. I did the tours and TV and some interviews and things like that, and photos, but just not recording, But as I say, it's now full time, and we're all like a proper band now.
I would expect your new album, Broken Frame, I would expect it to be a frightening step for you because you're out on your own as a songwriter now. I mean, how big a task was it for you, knowing that you probably were the only one to do it, really?
it wasn't really frightening. I enjoyed doing it, I think. Before, when Vince was in the band, I always sort of just stayed in the shadows out of my own choice. You know, I never pushed myself to write songs. I knew Vince was going to write them. Now, you know, I have to. And, you know, I like doing it anyway. So, you know, I enjoy it.
Was it difficult for you to write songs?
Quite difficult to write because I've always written songs, but I've never really written that many. I'd write perhaps one every 6 months or something, whereas now I've got to write 14 a year or something. I had to write 12 or 14 a year. What with B-sides, singles, the album.
What about help from the rest of the band? Is that coming at all now?
Well, Andy and no, you don't write songs. Alan, who's joining, just explained the situation to you. He's going to be writing some songs as well now. We might be writing together.
When you're out on your own, like on this first album, you should imagine there's what I meant by fright. It's not fright really, it's pressure on you, because if something is not liked or something is liked, well, if something is liked, great, you know, you've got the credit, but if something is not liked, the finger points at you. I should imagine that's the thing, like what you felt you had to get out of the way.
Obviously you do feel that sort of pressure, but you just try and do your best, really.
The thing is, it's very easy to get carried away into thinking, oh God, I've got to write something that's going to please these people.
Yeah. Do you want to shut this?
I don't mind, yeah. We shut this.
You just got to sort of keep producing good material. If you believe that what you're doing is good, it doesn't really matter what other people say.
From writing 2 songs a year, then suddenly writing 14, was it the producer, or Danny perhaps, telling you whether they're all good, or, I mean, did you write a lot of songs, more than 4?
No, that was about it really. There were some that I wrote at home on my own, and I decided before we'd actually gone into the studio that I didn't like those. I just didn't think they were good enough.
How do you write songs, personally? How do you write them? Did you write them on the synth?
It depends, sometimes...
I mean, are you a keyboard player as well? Piano player?
Not as such a keyboard player. You know, I just know basic chords. You know, I play synth with one hand. But, you know, I write... sometimes write on keyboard, just write the chords first, then perhaps write a melody over the top. Sometimes write on guitar. Sometimes write the words first, you know, and just work on the melody. Just, you know, different from song to song.
It's the first time that we're really hearing in full your compositions, except for the singles which already appear on the album, as I said. It is a different album, not because, in my opinion, you've tried to do something different, but because you are a different songwriter. Now, with regards to arrangements and stuff like that, which is probably the most important, it's not the songs, because the songs maybe it's easy to write, but when it comes to arranging them and giving them the bit of polish here and there, and you know, sanding them down, I mean, who takes care of that?
It's partly us and partly Daniel. That's part of the producer's job, to get everything sounding right, make sure the bits are fitting together right. So it's partly Daniel and partly us. We sort of we share the production.
Well, one thing that when the Depeche Mode started at the beginning, it had the tag of you had the tag of being sort of like the equivalent to a 3-chord band. You know what I mean? Like the very simple note, da 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 jobs, you know. But I heard you say on the radio, explaining about the sleeve, what it means, the broken frame. You've broken from the tag. Was it, in a way, okay, you had Vince writing songs for you, but in a way, are you glad that things happened the way they happened and that now you're able to express yourself as a songwriter?
Yeah. For me, it's a lot better. I explained I enjoy it. I enjoy writing the songs. I enjoy having more freedom in the studio. Before a lot of it was left up to Vince. He'd come in with a song, virtually say, I want to do this, I want to do this, and it was just everything was just left up to him. If we disagreed with something, we'd have to really argue, even though there were three of us and we might have disagreed with him. It'd still be a struggle, because he's got a very strong character. But now, we've all got more freedom because we're more of a democratic band. If somebody doesn't like something, we'll consider that opinion.
I guess to a lot of Depeche Mode fans, they got it well because instead of one Depeche Mode, now there's two. When I say that, I don't mean there's both similar, but both splinters of the band. I mean, people who are happy with Yazoo were obviously happy with what Vince used to write, and people who are happy with Depeche Mode are obviously happy with what you're writing. So they're getting the best of both worlds for themselves.
There's many people that like both.
Yeah, and probably get the same punters at your gigs, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The show and everything that you do is centered obviously around songs. What is your? I haven't seen you live. Never really saw the band live. Has the first chance to be next week. Is it differing from what used to happen now? Is it
different
from the old?
Yeah. Not really, no. Obviously the set's different. This set incorporates all the new album. But basically what we do is the same.
You don't play any of the old speakers?
We do.
You do?
Play four or five.
The singles and a couple of other tracks on Speaker Spell, plus all the new album. But from a visual point of view, we're the same,
Except that we've got a new stage set, which is like the back of a stage, back of a stage set.
Back of a film set.
Are the tapes still there? Because I believe
Yeah, we
tapes,
still use as tapes.
Isn't that something which you? Because I mean, you got the tag of having tapes, or better still, Revoxes.
Yeah.
I think was the word. But are you going to try and find something else now? Okay, the tape is necessary. Maybe hide it behind the curtain or something. But because I think you used to show it.
We still do.
I think that's more honest.
There's no reason to hide it. And if you hide it, you're immediately saying we're guilty about this. We're not happy about
It's
this.
more image-wise. When I say people's going, oh, not that tape again. You know what I mean? It's like even hanging it off.
I think that sort of thing is well accepted now.
Yeah.
In this country especially. In America we came in for some stick about that because they're not so ready to accept something like that. But there's so many bands that do use tapes these days and have done for quite a while now, going back to people like 10cc who always used to use tapes on stage as well. That it's become a very accepted thing, and I don't think many people are bothered by it anymore. Also, it's nice to play with tapes. I find it really nice because you know that your drummer's not going to make a mistake, and you can get a very good punchy sound,
Yeah.
Without any acoustic problems or anything like that.
For us, there's not a lot of alternatives because in the studio we use a drum machine, which triggers various things. Like we use different bass drums for different songs.
What is it? What's it called?
We use TR-808, Roland TR-808.
Roland. Yeah.
Which triggers either Simmons drum pads.
You've got the Simmons.
Yeah, but it triggers them. We don't actually
Pads
play
are
them.
Yeah, but we don't play it.
Those look like an oven. Those look like an oven, right, or something.
No, but it's not those ones. It's like a small unit
Yeah.
which you link up to the TR-808. It triggers just triggers the
So
drum
one
sound.
drum machine plays the other one.
Oh, right.
Rather than having the pads to play it,
Oh, right.
the drum machine plays it.
Do you use any pads though? Do you use
No.
any? So all the drum is purely synthetic then? Yeah.
But see, to do that live, it would take so long to set everything
I
up,
know.
and also it's so complicated to program every song because the TR-808 can't take a lot of programs. Like you can perhaps program 4 songs into it, and then there's not enough scope to program the whole set into it. And also you'd have to get the right bass drum sound every night. Whereas if you're using tapes, you can just record that and it will play it back every night. It's unreliable, very unreliable.
What did you start off with? I mean, what synthesizers did you use to start with?
I used a Yamaha CS5. Andy had a Moog Prodigy. Vince used to have a Kawai.
And now what is it? Now it's Roland stuff. Is it what string stuff, polyphonic stuff, and the lot?
Well, I use a PPG, which is German. I don't use it.
Roland Jupiter. Polyphonic.
Yeah.
And Andy uses a Moog.
It's just for convenience, you know. We need to have good programmable synths,
Yeah.
so that we can get the right sounds without too much fiddling around. You know?
We are talking there about expensive equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Jupiter 8 is a very expensive
Yeah,
equipment.
that's
But okay, you weren't in the band, but I mean, did you own it before, or did you own it? Did you actually own it?
Well, it's the band's. It's
The
not
band's.
mine personally.
So, am I right in saying that any money made, you reinvested into equipment and buying new equipment every time?
A lot of it, yeah, not all of it though. Because even so, like the Jupiter 8 say costs 3,500, PPG costs 3,500, TAC costs about £1,000.
So you probably got what, about 25 to 30,000 pounds worth of equipment?
No,
it's
much less.
Much less, about 10 or 12.
£12,000.
It's not bad.
Because although they're expensive, we only have one keyboard each and a tape machine, and that's it. Everything else we hire for the tour, like PA and that we hire, lights we hire, codes, you know, it's all hired. So really, it's not that much, you know.
I should imagine, I don't know, I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing your setup, but it's obviously less expensive than a rock and roll band, right?
Yeah, although every time we tour we seem to spend a bit more. I don't know why exactly, but it happens.
We usually manage to make money though in England, Britain.
You're just about one of the few bands who are actually making money, probably. Because
It's not a great deal, but it's a profit, you know, rather than a loss.
It's better than loss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mind you, we tend to lose in Europe, don't we? What we make in England, we'll lose in Europe. But that's okay, break even.
In Europe you lose because of the turnout of people's what?
Well, no, it's just that you have to use so much more cost to go over there and take the crew over there.
Yeah, and all that.
So our fees are a bit less over there. You know, we can't command huge fees over there.
And the thing is,
start selling them.
I mean, the point of touring isn't really to make money anyway, is it? You know, it's to sell.
This is from albums that money is made.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah. If you break even, then that's great. If you could go on to break even,
That's right.
with a coach like this as well. I mean, like, you know, it's not exactly a little minibus or something.
You're one of the few bands that I know as well who, at the stage, and I'm saying at the stage, I mean like after having a few hits, you still manage yourself. I mean, do things run that smooth for you that you're able to find time to manage
They
yourself?
do really, don't they? I mean, the hardest bit about it is the
I mean, you've got
accounts and all stuff like that. You know, that's quite difficult. We don't really try and stay away from it as much as we can, really.
I mean, we have a lot of good people around us that are obviously helping out and fulfilling quite a lot of those roles. Like our tour manager doubles up with doing the out front sound. He also does work at Mute Records and basically does a lot more than your average tour manager. And of course Daniel helps out a lot as well.
Yeah.
And I think he fulfills more of a role than your average record company boss would, you know what I mean?
Sure.
He does more on a personal level than most record company people would. So in that respect, there's a lot of good people around us that make it a lot easier.
Probably something which you wouldn't have been able to do had you properly signed with a big company. You would have you would have needed a.
Well, they'd have
manager.
a big company would have probably said you've got to have a manager for a start.
Well, they would have given us a manager probably.
But it doesn't seem too much of a problem, does it? Apart from, as you say, it's the accounts and tax basically that we have to be careful about, because we're all pretty naive on that level, I think. You know what I mean? I don't understand about accounting or tax or anything really.
Being faithful to the record company, which obviously gave you a chance of breaking, is one thing, but facing reality, you might have to face facts in a few years' time where you'd say it's no longer feasible to be on a small company because, look, we need great distribution, you know, or some things like that. You obviously prepared for things like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it really got that bad, then we would have to start thinking about what we was going to do more. But at the moment, we just haven't done anything to do it.
As a band, do you want to keep it? I know money is nice, but do you want to keep it low key? In the sense of making enough money.
All you need is enough money to live on, really. I mean, I don't know if any of us got any ambitions to be millionaires. But what you basically need is enough money to live on. And then I think I'd be happy, you know, if you had a house and a car, and then the rest of your life you've got enough money to live on, then you don't really want much more. I mean, that's enough.
Are these things coming your way, like a house and a car and stuff?
Not at the moment, they're not.
No, but they obviously they could be.
I'd like that. They could be,
yeah. One thing is, this is, you've heard this, it's a bit of cliche, but I mean, the music business is very fickle, right? I mean, one day it's pro, the other day it's against. You've already started facing the againsts from the media, as I was hearing a term from the gentleman right there. But if, let's assume, I mean, you've got to make the best of it while it lasts. I mean, how are you going to confront that? I mean, what's your strategy? Really?
Well, I mean,
kill them all.
Kill all the bad critics. No. I mean, basically, personally speaking, I don't take that too seriously because, as we were saying, we've seen that with everybody else. Just about any band you can care to think of gets built up and then knocked down, you know. And you know, if you're prepared for that, then obviously you're expecting it, and it's not too much of a blow. But of course, it's still, you know, if somebody like slags you off or gives you a hard time, then it obviously gets to you. It'd be silly to pretend that you're not hurt by it at all.
It's how popular the music will last. That's more the difficult question that I'm trying to get to.
I think, you know, in fact, all that kind of media thing doesn't really make a great deal of difference if you're in our kind of position, whereby you've got past the stage of having to have that press. You know, even if you don't have that press, you've still got your fans, you've still got people that are going to buy your records. So in that respect, it's not too important. But basically, yeah, it always comes back to good music, you know, carrying you through. The thing is, it's very difficult for us to say, well, we're going to carry on for 10 years, and in 10 years' time we'll still be churning out the records, you know, because we don't know what we're going to be doing. We can only keep going and trying and keep progressing, you know, and getting better and putting out good material, you know, and as long as we're happy doing that, we will do it. But as to say, you know, are we going to retire and make comebacks, you know, in 10 years' time, 5 years' time?
Breaks can be healthy, though.
Breaks can be healthy, yes.
People not fed up of seeing their face all day.
Apart from that, if we went through a barren patch and we weren't producing material that we were happy with, then it would be wrong to like release something that we weren't happy with. So maybe like we'd take a break for a year because we weren't happy with what we were producing or something. Just because of that fact, not because we wanted to. And maybe that happens to a lot of bands. You know, someone like Led Zeppelin only produces an album every 3 years or something like that, whatever it is. You know, because perhaps they're not happy with what they're producing. You know, they'll leave it until they actually produce something that they feel they can release.
You obviously must be proud of the fact that you're one of the bands, the forefront of the so-called synthesizer jobs. I mean, the Human League have made this a quite big success. Your old mates, yes, who are making success. You are making success, but there's not that many. I mean, you're one of the pioneers. Are you proud of it, or doesn't it hit you at all?
No, I think I'm proud of it. That we are proud of it. We try not to think about it too much. Sometimes I hear something that was recorded and that I like. That makes it.
I find it very difficult to see us in perspective, to see yourself in perspective with everyone else, and it's very difficult to sit back and think we are this and this is where we are, because I don't know, you're so involved that in fact all you're doing is just getting on with it and doing it. And if it's when you start to sit back and actually thinking about what you're doing that you maybe start making mistakes, by trying to...
When you start analysing yourself,
It's too much self-analysis, And I think that's been a lot of the beauty of the success, really, is in that it hasn't been analysed too much, it's just happened. And nearly everything that's happened has been a kind of natural progression.
What do you think, though,
including this new album, which is different in a lot of ways, but it's been a natural progression rather than something that's been contrived,
What do you think it was, though, that sparked off general interest in such music? What do you think made the kids say, this is what we want?
I think punk music opened the way for a lot of new music, because it just broadened people's minds. Before a lot of people weren't prepared to listen to, the general public weren't prepared to listen to anything that they thought was slightly different. But after that, sort of anything was acceptable. And then Gary Newman came along. I think he opened the way a lot as well for electronic music. He had a couple of, quite a few hits. And people began to just accept electronics.
I mean, I think at the moment it's healthy in some respects in that there's room for every kind of music. I mean, you only got to look at the charts to see that. There's reggae, soul, there's funk, electronic, heavy metal, everything's in there. And in that respect it's healthy, but we are getting a little bit back to pre-punk days also, in that there's a lot of blandness creeping in as well, isn't there?
The thing of chucking away your guitars is what I think I've heard you say that before, but you've literally chucked away your guitars for synthesizers. Is that, do you see that temporary? Do you see you going back to guitars at all?
I don't miss that sort of guitar, not like lead solos and that sort of thing, but I think acoustic guitars.
The actual sound of guitars isn't by any means thrown out of the window.
Is that your old love for folk music again? Because you used to be in some folk bands, right? Or something.
Sort of folk. I've always liked acoustic guitars. Andy's got one on the coast now. We all play them. I don't think you can say that we'd never use a guitar again.
The thing is, with synthesizer, it is so easy to get such a wide range of completely different sounds, and you can always discover new sounds. And the actual sounds that are available on synthesizer these days seems to be infinite, and you can constantly discover new sounds. And from that point of view, it's really exciting. Because guitar, okay, you can stick guitars through effects and echo and flanging and God knows what, but basically, once you've tried all that out, there's not much else sound-wise.
Unless you refer to a guitar synthesizer, that's what people are doing. They're referring to guitar synthesizers anyway. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, but then again, you're just using a synthesizer via guitar strings instead of keys,
that's right.
Which is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
It's
just like the sound of a guitar may suit a particular song, in which case it may get used, but apart from that I can't really see you know, a complete reversion to drums, bass, and guitar, you know, or anything like that.
Do you follow at all any funky music, any soul music?
Follow?
Yeah.
Must admit, I don't like really.
You know this electrophonic funk stuff that's coming up now, like a lot of synthesizer, funky stuff. I don't mean Kool and the Gang and people like that. I mean more like some of these new ones, really obscure names at times, but they're coming up with. They're a bit like a funky version of the Human League, for instance, a very, very funky version. You don't follow.
I haven't heard much of that.
There's one band called Shock USA. In fact, they've got a song called Electrophonic Funk. But it's all happening, and I think it's. I mean, you've visited the States, right? You've played there. What do you think is happening? I mean, regards Depeche Mode in the States. I mean, is it happening at all for you, or is it in closed doors? What is it?
I don't think anything's happening. Personally, I don't think it's happening. We have quite a few people turn up to our concerts. We played packed halls, 2,000-seater halls in all the major cities. That's not really a lot. That's not enough in America. We've sold about 30,000 albums, which is like selling about 10 in England.
You need to. I mean, are you going to keep trying, going to keep hammering at the States? Or?
We're not prepared to go over to the States and tour for 6 months of the year.
Not like
flog ourselves to death. I mean, we couldn't do that. I don't think we could do that. And as to getting radio play in the States, it's very difficult. So I don't know. We just got to hope, really.
If like we had a hit single over there or something like that, I think it'd just be an added bonus. We just sort of think it's an added bonus.
Obviously, we will play there, and we like to play there, but you know, how much of a dent that will actually make?
Yeah, I mean,
debatable.
Yeah, not unless you go and you say 6 months
exactly,
a year, which is the boring stuff. I gather you. I mean, it's fun being on the road, but you're not very much into touring, I presume. You'd rather be in the studio creating music.
Yeah, I think you should say that. I mean, usually, like, at the beginning of the tour is quite nice, but after you've been on the road for a few weeks, it's getting pretty boring. You don't know where you are, you know.
Tell me something about the songs that you've written. I keep hearing everywhere you don't like talking about your songs, but where did they come from? Is it just front room jobs? Are we talking about a collection of songs over a period of years? Lyrics influenced by somebody else? Tell me what. I mean, how did they happen, generally speaking?
Well, I usually write just sitting in my bedroom, and I can write about anything really. Some things that are made impressions on me, something that I feel I want to write about. Quite a lot of the songs on the album are sad, but I think there's a lot of humour as well. I think people miss the humour a lot of the time. To me, when I hear something, they make me laugh. I've always liked humorous records. So I don't particularly like jokes. Jokes as such, like telling a joke, like albums by Benny Hill, things like that. But records that are quite meaningful, but still retain their humour, I think, my favourite type of music.
Do you write from personal experiences as well?
Sometimes, yeah. Not always. Sometimes, a lot of the time, I exaggerate the personal experience. I'll blow it out of proportion.
Can you give me an example of, for instance?
See You. It's sort of, basically sort of happened and tells a story, but I add bits here and there, make it a bit more interesting. So it'll probably be a bit boring if you just I just tell it from what exactly happened.
The Meaning of Love is a song which could have very well been written by ABC,
Yeah.
since they profess to be professors on the subject about love. But it's a subject which has proved itself to be very strong for the past 100 years, 200 years maybe, or even 300 years, ever since folk songs and stuff like that. Is it a subject that you're going to keep referring to, whether you like it or not, really? Is that something you find easy way of writing songs?
Not really, no. I think it's only not having an album on hand. I'd say about 3 or 4 songs on the album that sort of are about love, I think. I haven't got an album with me, so I'm just going through it and trying to think of it. But I don't think it's any easier to write about. I think it's just more sort of part of people's lives. It concerns people more than a lot of other subjects. That's why people tend to write about love.
Yeah.
The meaning of love, though, wasn't it? I don't really think that I wouldn't consider that a love song, really. It's more that is
More of a humorous record.
Yeah, I think that's more humorous.
That's more like what Martin was just talking about, I think.
Like it's UB40's Love Is Alright. It's actually anti-love song. A lot of people thought it was a love song. Still though, subject matter is something which you obviously found probably more lyrics. I should imagine you found more difficult than music, right? So I should imagine most of the time in your case, silly question, but most of the time in your case you had lots of music ready and lyrics to fit on afterwards.
Not really.
No?
I never really work on the music until I'm getting somewhere with the lyrics. I never sort of write music totally first.
But for your third album now, I mean, when you're obviously going to do another album one day, so how are you going to try and tackle that? Or?
Well, the thing is to see how it comes out, really.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you're being lazy about it. That means you don't try and direct it before you know what your direction's going to be, you know.
Have you, that's what I meant, that's what probably my question should have been. Are you still now seeking the right direction after sort of like the shake-up in the band?
Yeah, the thing is, if you try and predetermine your direction, then you're immediately trying to contrive something rather than letting it come. And I think that's what I was trying to say earlier on, in that we try and not to do that too much, is to actually just write the songs at the time, depending on how you're feeling at the time, and do them in the way you see fit at the time. And if that happens to be a different direction, or happens to be the same direction, or whatever, then that's just the way it is. And rather than just sort of saying, okay, well, the second album was a bit more accessible to maybe an older audience, so let's make the third one a bit more poppy, you know, to get back some of those, you know, I mean, I think that's what I mean by sort of too much self-analysis will maybe see us making mistakes rather than letting it flow, basically.